Okay, folks. So this is our new timesheet. Amy says that this may be a temporary thing, maybe a permanent thing. We're not sure yet. So let's go through it. First off, timesheets must be turned in by the end of the pay period. This is something that you're going to have to print out, sign, send to your supervisor or Amy before the end of the pay period. That means that last Friday in the pay period, you've got to have this turned in. So we're going to go ahead and start. I'm going to put my name up here in the very top right. And then I'm going to double check our dates. So this is the 23rd is the starting of this pay period. And this is the only date that we need to worry about. I can take it out, and you'll notice that everything changed here. We're going to go ahead and put it back in, and as soon as I start typing, it brings up a calendar. I can just click the date on the calendar. So we're going to go over here, Monday. We're going to clock in. I'm going to say that I'm going to clock in at 9 o'clock a.m. Monday. And you'll notice that I put the colon. We've got to have a colon. So I'm going to take my lunch around, I think I'm going to take my lunch around 12:05 Monday. And because 12 o'clock noon is PM, the system's going to recognize it even if I don't put a PM. Now down here we've got a total time worked daily, and it's already calculated that I've worked 3 hours and 5 minutes, which when you convert it over to a decimal point is 308. I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to clock back in at 1 o'clock. And I'm going to put a space. I'm going to put my PM because I've got to have that for 1 o'clock. Going to go down here, total time worked daily. This is in the negative. That's okay. I just got to remember to clock out for the day. I'm going to clock out at 5 p.m. And instead of writing 5:00 p.m., which would be perfectly fine, I'm going to use military time because I know some people like to use it. So I'm going to do 1700. Even though I'm using military time, I've still got to put that colon in. It is very important. The spreadsheet automatically changes that over to standard time, puts the PM, and look at that. I've worked a little over 7 hours. So Tuesday, I'm going to come in the same time. Capitalization doesn't matter for the AM and PM. What does matter is you have a space there. If I try to go to lunch at straight up 12 o'clock and I don't have that colon, I'm going to get an error message. So we're going to cancel that. It clears the cell, and I'm going to put my colon in and my 2 digits after that. Again, it knows it's PM, and then I'm going to come back a little earlier. I'm going to come back at 12:30 today because I got to make up a little time. I'm going to put that space in there, and voila. Now we're going to go 5 p.m. again, and I put that in. I don't put an AM or PM, and the system says that it's 5 a.m. If we go down here, we've got a negative number. That's a good sign. That's flagged in red, so we can go back and see what we did wrong. I'm going to delete that cell and put 5 p.m. again. And it's good. I worked 7.5 hours today on Tuesday. Wednesday, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to put in that 9 a.m. and this time I forgot to put the space. So when I hit enter, it does not like it. It's going to tell us exactly how it wants it. You can put seconds. Please don't. So we're going to fix that. And let's say that I take a half day. So I'm going to go ahead and take a half day, leave it 1, and use a little vacation. So down here on this light tan bar here, this is where we're going to track our time off. This is step 1 of taking time off. So I'm going to take 4 hours of time. This bar does not require a colon. In fact, please don't put a colon here. It's going to do it, and voila, I worked for 4 hours. I took 4 hours of vacation, so I've got 8 hours here. This whole time, as we clock in and out, we've got a running tally for total time for our week 1. So far, I've accounted for a little over 22.5 hours. And then week 2 over here, that's 0. We haven't gotten to that yet. And then total time worked for the pay period. So let's go over here to week 2. Next Thursday is July the 4th. We're going to put in 8 hours. Amy says that the office is going to be closed next Friday, which means we get an additional day of holiday pay. So we're going to put in 8 hours there. So for week 2, I've already got 16 hours in the bank. I've already got 38.58 hours for my full pay period. So let's go down here and do something a little fun. This right here is completely optional, but sometimes it's nice to know. We can put our hourly pay rate in here. I'm going to put $10 an hour, and it tells me what my gross pay is going to be. If I were to change that to federal minimum wage, it'll recalculate it. So we're going to go back to $10 an hour. So down here, our personal activity report. First things first, we're going to talk about that time off. You'll see that these 3 rows right here are the same color as our time off. We're going to work a little backwards here. We're going to go ahead and plug in our holiday pay. This does require that colon again. And you'll notice that when I did that, this cell changed from red to green. That's just a check to make sure that, hey, I've recorded everything I need for that day. This one's still red. Let's go ahead and put our 8 hours in there, and it went red. We can go back over here to activity. This is a little drop-down menu. It's got a little button right here, and I'm going to select holiday. So over here is the grant. So my primary grant is PHW, but some of y'all, your primary grant is HBC. Some are just under ACL. There's REP here for those of you that work on Rep Payee. Down here I've got VRS for Vocational Rehabilitation Services, and finally CSL for counseling. So I'm going to put it at PHW because that's my primary grant. But that doesn't account for my vacation time, so I'm going to go ahead and add in my vacation time. I select PHW for my grant. I select vacation for my activity. I come over here. I've got my 4 hours of vacation time, and it's still red. I still got to make up 4 hours here. So we're going to continue here. We're going to drop down here into this white area. We still have our grants here. I'm going to go ahead and select PHW. And now I've got a drop down menu that has some different activities. We've got administrative tasks. Maybe I've just been doing paperwork, entering notes into ETCIL Suite, making copies of things, or helping around the office. We've got consumer service. Maybe I was working with a client, a consumer. We've got community activities. Maybe I was out and about doing a health fair, going to meetings, going to, well, just about anything in the community. We have contacts. So I'm going to use contacts here because I'm working on scheduling some meetings. And I'm going to say that, I spent roughly an hour and 15 minutes here. So I'm going to put that hour 15 in there. And you'll notice that this is bumped up to 525. I'm a little closer. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change my grant. Down here, I'm going to go to Vocational Rehabilitation Services. I'm going to put in a consumer service. And I'm going to work with a consumer for 2 hours. I put that in, and I'm really, really close now. So finally, I'm going to round out my day on Wednesday with helping out HBC, and maybe Miss K needs me to help her with some paperwork. So I'm going to go in here, administrative tasks, and I'm going to go ahead and say I worked for 45 minutes. So I'm going to go 0, that 45, and now this is green. So that's on Wednesday. Any day in the pay period that I work PHW and I do some contact stuff, I can enter into this row. We're going to go ahead and say Monday, I did a little more contact work. And we're going to say I did half an hour of that. So 30 minutes. These are in hour and minutes down here. And it's already tracking up here. I'm going to go ahead and round this out by saying, well, we're going to go over here. Well, no, we're going to stay over here. We're going to go ahead and do another 2 hours of work with consumers. I'm already racking it up. These are fairly broad categories. So we're going to go over some of them. Consumer service. If you're making phone calls, if you're working with them in the building, if you're working with them over Zoom, and you're talking directly to a consumer, that's a consumer service. Contacts. If you're talking to folks that we with that aren't consumers, such as MCOs, social workers, vocational rehabilitation counselors, teachers, whatever. We're going to put that into contacts. And finally, we're going to have one here for staff meeting. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in and say that, you know, we had a short little meeting Monday about all this stuff. So I'm going to say that that meeting was 15 minutes just to answer any questions that this video didn't, and put in here. Then we're going to go ahead, do one more. And that is training. Anytime you're doing training on the clock, record that so we have a good idea. I'm going to go ahead and say that I did about 3 hours of training on Monday, and I'm still working my way up to that 7 hours and 5 minutes. So finally, I'm going to go ahead, put some Voc Rehab stuff back in here, and I'm going to put travel. That way we have some travel time. And let's say that I had to travel to meet the consumer, and it took me 45 minutes to put in there. This is slowly racking up. So anything I have to put in on whatever grant that I'm working, I can just pick a category, pick a grant, and then enter the time in. So it's the end of the pay period, and you're about to turn this in. What you want to see here is for this column, for row 9, you want to see green and white. You don't want to see a red, because if you see a red, like let's say Friday, I clocked in at 9:30 and then I completely forgot to clock out, it's going to let me know that I didn't clock out, and then it's also going to let me know that I didn't do any of my time notes down here for the personal activity report. Same thing here on row 14. We don't want to see any red. We want to see that lovely green. We're not going to see any white here. So either going to be red or green. Up here, white just means that I didn't work. And that's okay. So we're going to scroll down. You've got quite a few here, quite a few rows here to put in stuff. And then we get down here, to where you sign. Signing means that you're acknowledging that everything on the sheet is correct and it's ready to print out. You can go here to File, Print, and there's a couple of things on print. We want to make sure that our orientation is on landscape. That way we can read this a little easier. We don't need to worry about any of that stuff. I'm going to go ahead and print this off. And I've already got it set to black and white, so this is what it's going to look like when I print it. If you have any questions whatsoever about this, don't hesitate to email me. I'm going to go ahead and clear out everything, and attached in this email is going to be your own timesheet. Now, It's kind of difficult to figure out, once we switch it over. That 7 hours and 5 minutes turned into 7.08. If you'll go over here to sheet 1, I'm going to rename this sheet real quick. Do a little housekeeping here. This is the quick converter. So if you got hours, put it in here. If you got decimal points, right here. So we're going to go ahead, clear that out, and put that 708 in there. And it changes it to 7 hours and 4 minutes. There's a little bit of a rounding error there, but this is just to help you with your your PAR notes. Okay, folks, I hope this is helpful. I really hope that this sheet's easy to use. I spent a little bit of time working on it, and I will talk to you later.